Welcome back to Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And of course, many have paid attention to the many defections from the Tennessee Titans that have gone to the Atlanta Falcons. Some have even called the Atlanta Falcons Titans South in some, parts of the country. Well, I wanted to talk about the Atlanta Hawks, of course, the Atlanta Falcons, and of course, what all is going on down there, the little bit of the Tennessee flavor that's there as well. And I figured who better to talk about them than one of the best journalists around, someone who covers the Atlanta Falcons as well, Mr. D Orlando Ledbetter. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on your podcast and on your show and platforms this week. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The pleasure's all mine. I mean, I'm in the presence of greatness. So, so I've got to ask. You're a veteran in journalism. I've got to ask, how did you kind of get your start into journalism?
Well, I started my first article was in junior high school writing for the student paper, and that just led to continuing to write at the high school level, college level, to the point where I got an internship in Newport News, Virginia, and upon graduation, had some offers coming out of the School of Journalism. Well, we don't have a School of Journalism, School of Communication, the Journalism Department at Howard University. Just started. I was playing sports and writing sports in high school, and just kept doing it through college. Played 1 year, walked on to the baseball team, and saw that wasn't going to be a big thing for me, and ended up spending a lot of time over at the Hilltop at the student newspaper there, working in the athletic department, doing the announcing for the home football games.
Wow. Did announcing too? Wow. Didn't know that. So I got to ask, I know over the many years that you've been writing, what are some of the lessons learned in some of the different places that you've been?
Yeah, you started out back in the day covering high schools, and I didn't even start there. I started on the desk as the area roundup guy in Charlotte at the Observer, and moved up to the high school guy, and would volunteer on college games. If our guys didn't like driving over to Raleigh Durham or Chapel Hill for the Harvard UNC game, the early season games, I would put my hand up for those. So, moved up through the ranks from the Charlotte Observer desk guy to was the high school writer, and left and went to did some colleges, one NFL story there, and went to Cincinnati as a high school guy, and moved up to Ohio State and helping on the Bengals. And then went to Milwaukee, is where I really got, first big beat and first big exposure, working, covering Marquette basketball and backing up Bob McGinn on the Green Bay Packers, and doing a column because Gary Howard was a slave master, our old boss, former NABJ Hall of Famer Gary Howard. I'm going to get that in there. But so that kind of happened for me there, and covered the Sydney Olympics. And I was, a lawyer too, and I was practicing for a while, and something opened up at the AJC, and I decided to, do something I love to do as opposed to, working in the legal system. I was doing corporate law and so forth, defending folks against Title VII claims and representing those with attorney Oscar Prelude down here in Atlanta, and got a shot, an opportunity to get back in the business, so I took it and have been here ever since. Covering, I started out helping with the high schools in Gwinnett County, and then I did the SEC, ACC for a year, a little bit over a year, and then I've been on the Falcons since 2005, covering the Atlanta Falcons beat.
Wow, definitely a wide-ranging journey, and a journey that's had you covering many a different sport. So I definitely get that you're well versed in many a different sports, which is great things. I I got to ask, you did mention, of course, you've been covering the Falcons since 2005. How has it been kind of covering them through the ups and downs during that time?
Well, actually, that's the Atlanta Falcons period of glory. From '05 to probably to the Super Bowl 16. They went to the playoffs more than any time in their history. They had back-to-back winning seasons for the first time ever. They went to the playoffs, 5 out of the first 4 years, 4 out of the first 5 years with Matt Ryan. He's the only person to take them to the playoffs 6 times. It was actually the glory period of Atlanta Falcons football, transferring from Michael Vick, who took them to an NFC championship game also. And then, the federal dogfighting trial, which we covered, won a lot of awards for that. And then, the smooth transition to Matt Ryan and Mike Smith, where they actually were relevant on the landscape, NFL landscape, for, the first time over a sustained period of time. That's been their goal, is to be relevant. And from 2003 to 16, well, actually to 17, they were a playoff contender and a title contender there at the end. They were number 1 seed 3 times, made it to 3 NFC championship games, won 1. We know what happened in the Super Bowl, but ever since 2017, when they went back, people think they fell off after the Super Bowl. They did not. They went back, and they're on the 1-yard line as a favorite to beat Philly and can't get the ball in the end zone. And then Philly goes on to win the Super Bowl, and Nick Foles beats Tom Brady. They could have had a shot at redeeming themselves had they found a way to win in Philly that Saturday. But ever since then, it's been downhill. 4 consecutive losing seasons. They're rebuilding right now. They have the highest dead cap space number in the league, 62.5. They are rebuilding, despite what they try to put out in their messaging. They're rebuilding a team from the ground up, because they're starting with the backup quarterback, Marcus Mariota, former number 2 pick. And, they're going to try to go with him. And if they can't, they got a 3rd-round pick that they're going to try to get out on the field.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, of course, we started to talk with deeming them Titans South. Of course, you do have a lot of different flavor in terms of the players. Rashaan Evans coming in this offseason. You have the head coach, who is Arthur Smith, who is the former offensive coordinator. You have a few guys that did switch teams and, kind of give it the other way around. Deontay Foreman went from the Falcons to the Titans. And, of course, now you have more Titans players there. So what is the feeling around the Falcons going into this season? I know, it wasn't necessarily the greatest season last year. I think more of an understanding that they're rebuilding now, especially with the loss of Matt Ryan or trade of Matt Ryan. So what's kind of the feel around this team?
Yeah, the feel is one that, that overachieved last year. They won 7 games, but they were outscored by 146 points. So it wasn't a 7-win team. Like, okay, there's 7, and the next step is the playoffs. No, the next step is backwards down to 3 to 4 wins, and probably back in the top 10, and adding more players. What happened is they came in, and all the players that were at the top of the salary cap were old. They didn't want to build with those guys. They felt it was time to let them go, and they traded Julio, eventually traded Matt Ryan, moving on. Dante Fowler cut him, and they're taking a dead cap hit so that next year they'll have a lot of salary cap space, but they're trying to build with veterans on low budget contracts like Rashard Evans, Casey Hayward, and blend them with some young talent. And then down the road, maybe you got some talented young guys that you could blend some other free agents with, some higher level free agents, and drop the quarterback in at that point and go on. They're trying to do like Buffalo did and like Kansas City did. Kansas City built their team out, and when Mahomes was ready to play, they traded Alex Smith. Okay, same thing in Buffalo. They took their lumps early with Josh Allen. He got better. They put better players around him. They saw what he could do. Got him Stephon Diggs, and adding weapons to that attack, and building out that defense to where they are now the kings of the AFC East. So that's what the Falcons are doing. It's a building team. Folks don't want to hear about patience. But they want to compete. They want to fight hard, and that's the mantra that Arthur Smith is trying to pass out to the players. Like, hey, we're not here to rebuild. We're here to compete and fight, and that might be all well and good. But when you got almost 60, 62.5 million in dead money on the table, you're going into these fights with your hands tied behind your back.
Right. Now, one weapon they were able to add that I like to mention is Drake London. They added him as wide receiver. Of course, plenty thought they were going to go with Garrett Wilson, but of course they went with Drake London. And I can immediately see what the Falcons may see in Drake London. I mean, he's a big guy that can move. He has a great catch radius. And honestly, if you look at him and Pitts, they look like two starting power forwards at the college basketball level. So to me, what it looks like is Arthur Smith is trying to create a couple guys that he can create mismatches with, like he did when he was at Tennessee. Would that be pretty accurate assessment of what you kind of see them building in terms of offensively?
Yeah, no question about it. You could just call Pitts his Delaney Walker. That's his favorite tight end from his time there. Helped Delaney get to Pro Bowl status. And, Delaney was on the San Francisco team that came back to beat the Falcons in the NFC title game with Kaepernick at quarterback in 2012. So people in Atlanta are familiar with his work. And AJ Brown is he's Drake London, so he's gonna run the end cuts. They came here in Mariota's last year as a starter and beat the Falcons. I think that's his last win. And he threw a nice ball on an end cut to AJ, who cut it upfield and took it 75 yards. So that's Drake London. I don't know. He's a 4.5. He said that's the fastest he's ever run. He's not a blazer, but Mike Evans was a 4.53 coming out too down in Texas A&M. So those bigger guys can get away with being 4.5 if they're going to beat up on those D-backs and win those contested balls.
That's true. Now, of course, the big question, the big thing that happened that a lot of people were talking about is the Atlanta Falcons decided to take Ritter over Willis, which that surprised a lot of people. But I'm going to mention just something that kind of led to that decision that I read. Said it was a detailed plan of how to unseat a veteran, among other things that he talked about when he had his meeting with, I believe, the Falcons. That's been put out there. What did you expect them to take him over Willis in that draft?
No, he was the fifth rated guy. He was before all the draft lead up, it doesn't matter because they got him rated second. So they Ritter, if you talk to anybody at the combine or the Senior Bowl, it was Pickett, Willis, and then Corral, Howell, and Ritter. So, and Howell and Ritter had won a lot more, and Corral had major problems. He might have been the best one, but he had some, so-called quote-unquote character issues, allegedly that were alcohol-centric. And so Desmond won the most, though, and he passes the Bill. Him and Pickett are the only two that passed the Bill Parcells quarterback test, which is, start over 75% of the games and, play over 30 games, win over 75% of the time, and, take your, lead your team to a bowl game. So those two, Kyle passed it too, but, that's how they were stacked. The Falcons didn't have them stacked that way. And we're going to see if the kid is more accurate, he might be more ready to start than Willis, because the coach at Liberty didn't do him much, didn't do him any favors by saying, oh, he knows what he knows, basically saying he doesn't know anything on how to read defenses and so forth. And he's just was an athlete out there. Nobody wants that. That's going to take a while to teach him how to read the defenses and so forth correctly. So, who took him? He went to the Titans, so he could learn under Tannehill. Give him a 1-read, 2-read thing, and then build it up to where he could read for, 3 or 4, get across the field. It took Mike Vick a long time to get, past reading one guy. He can go deep, short, Finneran deep and Crump short, or in a bootleg or the stretch runs, but I mean, you couldn't contain him. So he went to the NFC Championship game running the high school offense pretty much. But Greg Knapp kept working with him, and if he would have stayed, Dan Reeves and them would have had him right. If Arthur Blank hadn't got rid of Dan Reeves, he would have got him right. Greg Knapp was doing a good job. And then, of course, when he got out, Andy Reid did a good job with him. So who's ever coaching Willis over in Tennessee, is going to have to be patient and, let him get all the snaps in the exhibition season, which they're doing these days. And then, let him watch a little bit to where when he's ready to go, they can drop him in there because that team's already ready to compete for a title.
Right. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of do different things with him, if they actually create a package for him during games or not. But my take is let him sit, let him learn, let him continue to grow. But that's what I would do. But that's just me. And of course, they may have a different thing available for them. And since we're talking about quarterbacks, of course, Matt Ryan is in Indianapolis now, quarterback for the Colts. Now, did you see that coming right after, of course, the failed attempt at Deshaun Watson?
I did not. It happened so fast that I thought that they could patch things up, but it made sense. To do it once they didn't get Deshaun, but they kind of botched the whole thing. They go in for Deshaun. They're getting it back into a corner where you got to take a 3rd-round pick to the Colts because they wanted him to go where he was comfortable at and so forth. So they didn't do a good job of maximizing their return here. You saw what Denver got for Russell. You saw the other quarterback deals, and you're supposed to take the high road here and say, hey, we did this for Matt. All we got is a 3rd-round pick. They ended up taking a kid out of Western Kentucky, D'Angelo Malone. So, yeah, it was a bad look for the Falcons. Bad aggregate gain in the 1 draft pick. And, good for Matt. He's in a place where he could win. He's surrounded with a running game. And that's when the Falcons were always tough, when he had a play-action running game to go off of with Michael Turner early in his career, and then with Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman later in his career.
Right. I mean, I definitely think they'll be tough. The one thing I wonder about is they have one weapon at running back in terms of Jonathan Taylor, and they have one weapon in the passing game, which is Michael Pittman Jr., which I think that's going to be interesting to see. Can they develop other weapons to kind of balance things out? As far as Atlanta, of course, like you said, the outlook is 3 to 4 wins from your opinion, and that'll be interesting to watch and to see how they develop, how Arthur Smith develops as a coach, as the defense develops, and any of these veterans, if any of these veterans can kind of outperform those contracts that they have been given. It'll be interesting to watch and see. A few comments from the touring the AFC South inbox. Of course, we have one, Mr. Marlon Copeland. I'm so happy for Matt Ryan. He will get his respect in Indy. Don't quite. I guess some fans didn't really care for Matt in some instances at this point. Is that something that you can kind of speak to?
Yeah, you heard it on the radio shows and around town and so forth. I mean, even my friends would be like, "Oh, we got to get rid of Matt." I'm like, "Well, he's not the problem." The fact that he's laying on the ground 40 times a season is the problem. So, but yeah, folks, a different style with Michael Vick, and you have Michael Vick fans that were going to ride or die, even though Matt was taking them to the playoffs, even though he was winning. He's the winningest quarterback in franchise history and he's got all the records. There was a segment that, failed to embrace him. Even when he left, I was talking to Harry Douglas, a Titan Falcon, that kind of got this whole Titan Falcon thing started. Harry said, man, hey, I don't know why the people, they got to shut up and give my man his respect. You know, what he did here in Atlanta had never been done before. And that's true. So, you know, at the end of the day, they could be happy he's gone, but they got to give him his respect. And, you know, he's done a lot in the community. Super guy for the media to deal with. He told me, he's like, D-Led, I'm going to miss you on Wednesdays. You know, that was our day to get caught up and stuff, you know, and he was always there, always answered all my questions, never went off on me. You know, even after he, you know, threw 4 interceptions or something, he was always there no matter what. So I'm gonna miss that. And I know the fans and the fans that read the paper and online are gonna miss his professionalism too.
Right. It'll definitely be a different vibe with Matt Ryan out there at quarterback. But of course, you know, we've come to the part of the show where we have a game. I got 2 people or 2 things or whatever I'm going to mention. You got to pick one. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Warwick Dunn or Michael Turner?
Ooh, Warwick Dunn. I'll take Warwick Dunn in a slight one, because I really just like how little he was and how fiercely he blocked. You know, in pass protection, he would just chop them linebackers down. But the Burner Turner wasn't no joke either, though.
Yes, sir. Roddy White or Terrence Mathis?
Ooh, I got to go Roddy. I didn't cover Terrence, but I like Terrence too. So they were in that run and shoot. He was getting down the field with that thing. So, that's a good one too. But Roddy was my guy. So, I'll go with Roddy. Roddy was explosive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He definitely was. I'm going to go to Howard on this one. Steve Weish or Jim Trotter?
Well, Steve is closer to me, and we work together here in Atlanta. So, but I love both my guys.
All right. All right. Now I've got, of course, the aforementioned Matt Ryan or Michael Vick.
I'm on Matt Ryan because Matt Ryan maximized his talents, whereas Mike, you know, it came out later. He really wasn't studying the game plans and so forth. So, he didn't get to his ceiling. Matt Ryan, I think, maximized his talents here in Atlanta.
Gotcha. Now, last one. Now, I did do a little homework on this one. Cigars or bow ties?
Oh, they usually go together. Cigars. I love my Rocky Patels, and that's why my voice is kind of messed up now, probably. But so I got to kind of get myself on a quota on the cigars here.
Well, I definitely paid attention. You know, I did a little homework.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to thank you for coming on and definitely dropping a lot of knowledge on Atlanta. Of course, the connections, of course, with the Titans and the Falcons. You know, with players and coaches. Definitely. I look forward to the Bowtie Chronicles. I look forward to that, and I look forward to what all else you have going on. Can you kind of tell everyone what all you have in the works or have put out there recently?
Oh, sure, no problem. Yeah, the Bowtie Chronicles podcast is our podcast. It drops every Wednesday at 8 a.m. The Cover 9 at 9 blog is our weekly blog of the Falcons that goes with our daily coverage of the team. We're getting ready for a rookie mini camp, and we'll be writing stories and items from the rookie mini camp over the weekend. And that's where they can find most of my stuff on Twitter on at D Orlando AJC. We tweeted out there, and our Facebook page is Atlanta Falcons News Now. And you can follow the Bowtie Chronicles podcast on iPad and Google, iPhone and Google, and all of your other platforms that you can find your podcast at.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I definitely thank you for your time. And I thank everyone for listening and watching. You've been tuned in to Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out.
All right.